starting with identifying inverses graphically. So let's click on that. So we're gonna graph the inverse of the provided graph on the accompanying set of axes. You must plot at least 5 points. Click the graph to make a point, click it again to erase. Okay, so here's the original line that they gave us. And in order to graph the inverse, it's actually pretty straightforward. You just wanna find some points on here and switch the X and Y. The key to the inverse is literally switching X and Y. Okay, switching X and Y. For example, this is a point on your original graph. Do you see it? It's -1, 0. So to get the inverse point, you're gonna switch the X and Y. Here, let me actually annotate this. I think it makes it a little bit better. So this is a point, that point on the original, and then the inverse, okay? I'm gonna make a little t-table. So that point that I marked right over here, that is -1, 0. On the inverse graph, I'm gonna graph 0, -1. Notice that all I did was switch the X and Y. So I'm gonna write switch X and Y. So let me go ahead and plot that. 0, -1. Here's 1 dot. Let's find another dot on our original graph. So on our original graph, I'm just following it along until I get to a nice point. Okay, here's another one. This point is -5, 1. So on the inverse graph, I'm literally going to switch X and Y. So I'm going to do 1, -5. And so I'm going to go to 1, -5. I've literally just switched X and Y. Let's find more points on our original graph. Okay, gonna follow it this way. Oops, almost done, but there's one more point right here. This is -9, 2. So on my inverse, I'm just gonna switch it. It becomes 2, -9. Literally just switch the X and the Y. So let me graph 2, -9. So let's go to 2, -9, there it is. Okay, so we want 2 more points at least because they want us to do at least 5 points. So let me just do a couple more. So I've already gone all the way to the left of our original graph. Let me go to the right. Let me find a nice point. Okay, here's a point. Right over here. Sorry, oops, whatever. You can tell, it's there. So we have 3, -1 as another point on our original graph, right over here. We're just going to switch X and Y. So now it's -1, 3. So let me plot that graph. -1, 3. Sorry, plot that point, not that graph. But as you can see, my line is forming. Let's find one more point because they want at least 5 and we got 4. So continue to the right. Okay, here's another nice point right there. That is 7, -2. So we're literally just going to switch the X and the Y. It becomes -2, 7. And then I will graph this one as well. So -2, 7. And there you have it. This is our inverse graph. So the key to all of these inverses is switching X and Y. If we're doing it graphically, you switch X and Y. Doing it in the t-table, switch X and Y. Doing it in like algebraically, we're gonna switch X and Y. Right now, I just showed it to you in a t-table and on the graph. And as you can see, all we did was switch X and Y. So also another thing about graphing your inverse is that when you look at the graph of a line and its inverse, you will always see that it gets reflected across that red dotted line. It's kind of faded, but this dotted line right over there, that's the line y is equal to x. And so like literally the dotted line has the equation of y is equal to x. And so this green line, our resulting inverse, is reflected across this line. So if this line was a mirror, it would take our original black graph and across the mirror, it would end up being this green line, and that green line is our inverse. Okay, are there any questions about graphically plotting our inverse? I'm going to submit the answer. Let's do one more example from this because I think it's pretty straightforward. All right, so let me clear all those annotations. as you can see, we still have the same y equals x line over here. So no matter what the shape of your original graph is, it's going to be reflected across this y equals x line, okay? So this y equals x is the mirror when you are doing your inverses. So the same process, we're going to have original points, and then we're going to have our inverse points. And all we need to do to get the original to become the inverse is switch x and y, okay? So let's find some points on our original sideways looking parabola thing. So, okay, here's one point. Right over there, that is the point 1, comma, -3. So when you graph the inverse of it, we just switch the x and the y. It becomes -3, comma, 1. Literally, instead of x, y is now switched, -3, comma, 1. So I'm going to go ahead and plot -3, comma, 1 right over there. All right, so our task is to get 4 more points. So I just need to find 4 more points. All right, I see a point right over there. This is the point 0, comma, -2. And so we're going to switch the x and the y. That becomes -2, comma, 0. All we have to do is just find points and switch the x and the y. So let me go -2, comma, 0. There it is. Let's graph another one. Okay, so where else do I see a point? I see a point right over here at 0, comma, -4. All right, so I must plot this point, but the inverse point has to be x and y switched. So now it becomes -4, comma, 0 instead of 0, comma, -4. Literally just switch the x and the y. So I'm going to go to -4, 0, right over there. Okay, we need 2 more points, so I'm just going to find 2 more points. Let's say this one. Oops, sorry, that's barely on there. There we go. That is the point -3, comma, -1. We're going to switch the x and the y. Remember, that is our goal in all of this. So it becomes -1, -3. So I'm going to go to -1, -3. There's my point. One more. Go to your original graph, and I see right over here is a point. This is -3, comma, -5. And then when you switch your x and the y, it becomes -5, comma, -3. And so finally, I'm going to go ahead and plot -5, -3. There we go. Our line appears because we've selected 5 points. Sorry, it wasn't a line. Our graph appears, and now we have an upside down parabola. And as you can see, this upside down parabola is the black graph reflected across the red line, and then it becomes our green graph. So this green graph is our final answer. Do you have any questions? All right, so I'm going to submit this answer. And we got it. Okay, let's go to the next category.